What does a health coach do?
I always like to think of it like, say you go to the doctor and they're like, oh, sorry, we just diagnosed you with diabetes. And here is this great long list of things that you cannot eat. Best of luck to you, right? Now, even in my experience, like this happened to my dad, and he comes home with this list and he's like, I don't know. Now I can't have all these things that I like to eat. The things that are on here that they tell me I can't eat, I'm not going to eat that. I don't like that. I don't even know how to cook it. And so they're kind of lost. And what tends to happen with people is they just kind of don't do it. And they fall back into their own old habits, old ways, because they just don't know what to do. So as a health coach, my job is to come in and help you say, okay, you have this entirely new lifestyle plan that has been given to you. Let me help you figure out how to actually make this work for you. I don't want it to seem like this big daunting task that's too impossible. I want to help you basically baby step you, from A to Z to actually implement this and tailor it to your lifestyle.
When I do the work that I do as a physician, it's really hard for me to make recommendations and then see somebody back in 3 months or 6 weeks and expect them to have accomplished what I've asked them to do without any additional support. And so being a part of this program, why do you think you add value to just having a doctor who's like, this is what I want you to do? What's your role in the program?
It's just that to help people to say, okay, Dr. Peoples has given me this whole program, right? I have this manual. She's telling me what to eat. There's all these sleep recommendations, and we're talking about detoxing, and we're talking about environmental, factors. This is a lot. My job is to sit down and make sure that you understand the information and to help walk you through it and help you to take this big picture and to come up with a game plan. Small, bite-sized, actionable steps to help you baby step into actually making these big overarching lifestyle changes.
I've been doing this work for a really long time, and you've been doing what you've been doing, and they're sort of the same but separate. When you started working with me, and in this program specifically, what are some of the things that you feel like people really get out of it? What do you think are their struggles? I guess that's two separate questions, but what are the things that you work with people through?
Honestly, I think that people's biggest struggle is trying to figure out, okay, how do I make this program work if I'm traveling, if I'm busy, if I have a lot of stuff going on at work? Like, how is this practical? How do I make this work for me? I think I tend to see that the most. Also in the meal preparation aspect too, I haven't been eating this way. What are some of these swaps that I can make in the kitchen to where I can make this meal palatable for me? How do you cook without oils? Very basic things like that. I think that's the biggest struggles that I see. What they get out of it, what I have found is that the biggest thing is the awareness. And I love when I have conversations with people and they were like, yeah, I've been on the plan and things have been going well. And then, I just had a piece of bread and I just noticed that I started getting this cramping in my stomach, or I was really tired all of a sudden. And I was really stressed out. Work was crazy and I was traveling and I just had that piece of candy on the plane. But I knew that I was emotionally eating, and I knew that after this, I was going to have to just get back on plan, and my body will detox it out, So hearing them kind of start to have that type of awareness, I think is the biggest thing that they could get out of the program.
I agree. I think it's funny that, oftentimes people think of programs where you have to change lifestyle or behavior things, that it really is about the thing you're doing. I think for both of us, one of the things that we see, particularly in the groups or when we're talking to people one-on-one, is that they are more aware of their bodies and they're aware of the things that make them feel good and the things that don't make them feel good. And that bringing them a sense of power that they didn't know that they had. And I really enjoy that the most because, like you said, it's great to get the weight loss. You come because you want to lose weight, and it's great to have that. But to be able to have something that you can take with you so that your life is different after the program, I think that's sort of the secret sauce. So that brings me to another question. Is this program hard? Definitely different. It definitely comes with its challenges. But do you find that it's unattainable? Is it something that if you are a busy woman and you're traveling and you're working and you've got kids, I mean, these are all realities that we all experience.
A lot of the women we work with, they're busy in their careers, they're moms, they have stress maybe with family, maybe family health crises are going on and their own health, is not optimal. So that seems to be a common thread. It's not this program where you come in and it's like, this is too hard, I can't make it work. What I will say though, is that I think I try to emphasize to people is don't aim for perfection. It is difficult to aim for perfection in this program because over a span of 8 weeks, there will be a moment where you're just like, hey, I'm just gonna have that piece of popsicle, whatever it might be for you. And I try to tell people the goal isn't to be perfect, because I've gone through the program and I didn't do it perfectly at all. Like knowing all the things, your body is still going through a major change. Your body is still going to react and buck back at you because it doesn't like this process, your gut. It does not like this process that it's going through. And so there will be those reactions that you have to work through. So aiming for perfection, yes, that's impossible. However, even in these moments where it's like, okay, I got off playing a little bit, we circle back to that awareness in that conversation of, hey, this is why I did it. This is how I was feeling, but this is how I plan to get back on track. And that's the beautiful part about it, because in life is going to happen. Life is just going to life, you're never going to be in this perfectly curated environment where everything is going right and everything is ideal for you to be on the perfect diet and eating plan. It's never going to happen. That's not life. So this is like a very accurate representation of, okay, well then what do I do in those moments? How do I learn to make different decisions? So it is very attainable, but you do have to put in the work. You do. In the beginning, you do have to do more of the prep work of figuring out, okay, what recipes are going to work for me? What is my meal prep going to look like? You do have to kind of put in that forethought, but then once you do that, then it kind of gets to be on autopilot after a while.
Yeah, and I think that's just a really great point about well, number one, not shooting for perfection, but also this idea that what we see in the groups all the time is this idea of what do I do to just continue to make progress? Like, I actually love it. I say this all the time.
Yeah.
My favorite participants are the ones who aren't doing it perfectly, because what it is, it gives you an opportunity to like figure things out, right? But the great thing about that is that even while you're not doing it perfectly, you're still getting the results. And you're probably even getting more results that you can take with you even after the program, because now you've gone through that tough situation, you've traveled, you've gone to that meal with your friends, and now you have strategies because you have all the resources at your disposal during the program to troubleshoot, right? So you troubleshoot now, so when you get into that situation after the program, it's not like you haven't been there before. And so that's my favorite thing is that people don't have to be perfect, right, to really get the results we're looking for.
Also, what I will say is seeing those moments where people are like, oh, I was so good for 4 weeks. And then I had, X, Y, and Z. But then they're like, but I didn't like it. Like it tasted completely different. You might have been kind of building it up this whole time. Oh, I can't wait until I have this again. Or, oh, this craving is so strong. And then you eat it and you're like, oh, actually, all I taste is chemicals. I don't even want that anymore. So it's not that you're continuing to fight these cravings because it doesn't even taste good.
I had a whole program before about my cocaine and my cookies program about sugar addiction. And I used to try to explain to people, listen, like, I think a lot of people come into these programs thinking, well, I have to have my blank. I have to be able to have my French fry.
Yeah.
I love ice cream. How am I going to live without ice cream? And it's this sort of mind thought that, is there a world where where that food doesn't control you? It doesn't mean that you still can't have it, but where a lot of people come in at is where they can't resist having the thing that is keeping them overweight, or resist the thing that's keeping them feeling bad. But now it's a situation where, yeah, I have it when I want it. It's not all that I think about. It's not this idea that I can't live without it. That helps you reprogram, I would say, or reset your, in my science world, it helps to reset your biochemistry. It helps to reset your taste buds. It helps to reset the way your brain responds to foods as a stimulus. I don't have to understand the science of why it works, but to know that it works is, I think, you only really know that when you actually go through it. And that's why people are so surprised when it happens. It's like, I told you it was going to happen. I told you at the beginning of the program that this is what's going to happen. And then to actually have people be like, I mean, and they say it like they're like saying it as if like we didn't have that conversation 3 weeks ago. Like, I told y'all this was going to happen. Y'all didn't believe me. But so, okay, I have another question, because one of the things that I was hoping to really like delve into with you is that we are in these groups every week. And, the best way for somebody to understand what this program is about would be if they were in the group. And hear what people say over the course of weeks to week. So I just want us to like think of those moments. If you could share some experiences of other people in the group, what experiences come to mind?
There's this one that's coming up like immediately of one of the most recent participants. And she was one of the people who she did the things. She did all the things as they were laid out. She was like, that's not a problem. You tell me what to do and I'm going to do it. She's one of those kind of, and it's like every week in her journals, I'm seeing like all of this. Oh, I'm sleeping better. Oh, I'm finding like more peace. I feel so much joy. And it's like, it was such a pleasure, like reading through her journals, because you could literally see this transition and this like evolution. But I think that part, when I was having a conversation with her and she was like, I just feel light. I just feel like light on the inside. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so beautiful.
It's true. It's like, that's the other thing that when I think about it, is it's like, I'm even sometimes surprised. That if what you're telling them can be transformation. Sometimes even for me, I'm like, are people going to get it? Are they going to get the change that I'm promising them that they're going to get? And even though it continues to happen, every single time it happens, I like literally light up inside, because it's like when people say it, that they'll say it in a way that I couldn't have even said it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking of like one particular person. She was like pre-diabetic. And she was really concerned about like the impact that this would have on her health. And then I don't know if you remember this time when we were in group, and she was just saying how like her lab numbers came down, how she just felt better about how she was going to move forward. Before it was like, I have this diagnosis and I have no idea what to do. I don't know how I'm going to tackle it. But now it was like this sense of like, oh no, I got this now. And that has got to be the best feeling in the world, because now, people are like prepared for life. They're prepared for what's to come. That will transform the way that she ages for the next 20, 30, 40 years. She doesn't have to worry about diabetes sneaking up on her. She knows exactly what to do. She doesn't have to worry about high blood pressure or heart disease or any of those things. When you feel like, oh no, I know what to do. I know how to handle this. And it just lets me know that, okay, when people are done with the program, they can go back to their life, and I can feel like we gave people the tools. I think one of the things also I just like to point out is that a lot of the people come in because they want to lose weight. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But then some people come in because they have a medical condition that they want to actually improve upon. So this particular person had an autoimmune condition and really had difficulties with sleep, really had difficulties with energy. She's a high performer. She's a type A, she likes to do things right. And that's caused her a lot of stress. I remember one particular group where she was just like, woke up one morning and I wasn't feeling as energetic as I did, before. And normally I would have pushed through, but I took time, and then I was able to get it. And the next day I was fine. Before, what would have happened is that my autoimmune condition would have flared. I would have pushed myself through and things would have unraveled. But now I have strategies that will help me sustain myself for the long haul. It's not just about doing, it's about when, knowing when not to do.
Yeah, I remember her talking about that, and I felt like so proud. I'm like, yes, take your rest. Like this program, it truly isn't just about eating and what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat. Like there's so much more that you get out of it, and that I think is a common thread. And of when people come out and they do their testimonials and they're talking back over the program, they're like, yeah, X, Y, and Z happened. Oh yeah, then I lost some weight. And then I also learned how to it's like
Yeah.
the weight loss is a byproduct and everything else becomes the emphasis of like, look at what I got out of this program. So that's what I love the most. That, like you said, we do really give people the tools to take this and say, okay, now you can take it and run. Like once you know. And that's what makes it a lifestyle change and not just another diet. Because I've talked to some people who they've left the program and they're like, oh, well, this wasn't a good week, but I know exactly how to get back, and it's just that simple. So that's what makes it so sustainable.
Yeah. Let's get into some of like the nitty gritty of like what people can expect when they go through the program. As a person who's coached people through it, and somebody who is like, actively helping me improve the program every single time, like, what's the whole deal with the program? Like, what makes this program different than other programs that people might do?
Because it's so comprehensive, because it's not this one cookie cutter, just eat this way and then everything will be fine. Or it's not just about calories in, calories out, because it's not that simple. The fact that it does address everything from your sleep to your eating habits, of course, and then also like those things like detoxification and your hormones. A lot of people are not talking about that. A lot of people are not talking about how stress could be the underlying cause of why you're not losing weight, or your poor sleep habits. It's always what you typically hear is this: just eat less and work out more and you'll be fine. And we actually tell people, actually don't work out. Like, don't go kill yourself in the gym, maybe go on a joyful walk, maybe do some Pilates, but take it easy. So it's very counterintuitive. So I think people that come into the program and they might have expectations based on just kind of all the misinformation that's out there. But once they get in the program, they're like, oh, wait, like I've never heard these things, I've never heard how the toxins in the plasticware that I could be cooking with could be interfering with my hormones, So it's really an educational program. And then there's the supportive aspect of it too. You're not in it by yourself. Like if you have questions about what you should be eating, or how can I make this fit for my lifestyle, or I'm traveling next week, can you help me come up with a strategy so I don't just kind of binge out on the plane food or the airport food, and then the group as well, being able to like hear the wins of other women and to really see like, oh no, this is working. Like women are getting results. So if I just keep, if I just push through, like maybe this wasn't the best week, maybe I felt like I didn't give it my all, but if I just push through a little bit harder, like they're getting results, why can't I get results? And plus you having your perspective of like let me really, really get to the root of what's going on, because that's the most important thing. So having that information, but then you also there to guide them through, I mean, it's invaluable. So I think all of that combined is what makes it so different.
Well, I think so. One of the things though that I really work hard to try to cater to different people's like learning styles. Like I was talking to someone today and she was like, is it like going back to school? Like, am I gonna like have to like do all of this work? And really the answer to that was like, no, really, you come in as you feel is appropriate for you. So for example, if you're a person who just likes to read content, there's a whole manual for you to read. You could do this program, read it, and then, have it available for questions. If you're a person who, likes to watch videos, then there are long form videos that you can watch that will explain everything. You can listen to them in your car. So if you don't want to read, you can listen or you can watch, right? If you're a person who likes pictures, I try to include pictures as much as I can to explain topics. So if you're a person who likes that, then we do that. If you're a person who's like, I'm not going to do any of that, I don't want to read anything, I don't want to watch any videos, I just want to show up. You can show up every week and get everything you need so that you can do this program. And there's never a wrong time to ask a question. You're always allowed to answer questions. If you're a person who loves social media, right, you can get on social media in our closed Facebook group and you can ask a question at any time. So maybe you didn't read the book and you didn't understand the manual and you didn't understand what was supposed to happen, then you can just get on there and be like, what was it that I missed? So it's never like you have to guess and you're never left alone. Now, if you are doing some of these things, but like in the middle, it's, let's say it's a Friday and the weekly session has already gone past and you want to ask a question, you can always DM us, right? You can just send us a little message and we'll respond to that. And if you're a person who is like, okay, I really want to do more one-on-one work, I have some special situations that really need to be addressed, then you also get the one-on-one. So I really feel like the thing that I learned in medical practice is that it's not effective to just tell people what to do.
Yeah.
And it's not just effective for you to know what to do, right? Because like even with you and me, we've both done this program. We both know what to do, but it doesn't mean that we can just go out and do it. There's life that's happening around us at all times. And not a lot of people, not everyone has somebody that they can call and troubleshoot, right? So if you're having a problem, if somebody's saying, I want you to make this change to improve your health, and you get stuck, you may not have a doctor you can call and have on your DM to like ask them the question. You may not be around friends who are able to say, oh, I'm doing this too. Here, this is how I handled it. And so really creating a community and access. And like my therapist says, you got to use your resources. And so when we made this program, it was like, okay, how can I be a resource? How can we resource people for what they really truly need and what they want? Because that's what people, you don't know how many people I talk to who will say, I just want to do it naturally. I just want to be healthy, but I really want to do it naturally. And I tell people, that can be a very loaded word for me because naturally can mean a lot of things, but I've done the conventional side. I've done the holistic side. I've done the sort of natural side. And so it's kind of like, all right, let me help you figure out what you mean by natural, and then let's help you achieve those goals. So yeah, I love the fact that that is how the program is developed and people can come in as they are.
It takes the guesswork out of it. You don't have to go and like piece together and be like, well, over here on YouTube, I saw that this person, this is what they eat in a day. And then over here, I saw like this person said that like, this is really good to like lose weight, and try to piece together your own little plan. Like it's given to you. All the science, it's counted for. You don't have to understand, like you said earlier, you don't have to understand all that. If you want to, we can have a conversation about it gladly, because I know you love to go down those rabbit holes. Like you just can't wait. But if you don't, you just want to know the accurate information to do the thing that's to do, it's all laid out. So if you just follow the steps, then you'll get the results.
So I think about pills and shots, right? So because actually there's been quite a few people who are like, oh, I've done Ozempic, or I've done HCG, or should I do? And how is this program different? And I always have to remind people, like, because I do both, because I'm in the realm of sort of conventional medicine and integrative medicine, I don't really shun one versus the other. It's not like I would tell people, oh no, don't ever do HCG, don't ever get bariatric surgery. Like I understand and know where each one may be appropriate. There are going to be scenarios where maybe the right fit for you is to do shots, pills, or shakes or something like that. What the reality is that when you get done with your shots, pills, shakes, surgery, you still have to know how to live. You know what I mean? You still have to have the skills, because those things only work when you do them, right? So as long as you're taking your pill, it will help you lose weight. It will decrease your appetite and you will lose weight. And then you'll stop the pill. And then if you go back to your same habits, and if you don't have all the strategies to address the root causes of illness, you may continue to eat right and exercise right, and the weight will still come back on. You know this to be true if you're trying to lose weight, and that's what happens. I mean, I don't have to like sell that point. People know what happens when you stop these therapies. The same thing goes for chronic conditions. You've got diabetes, high blood pressure, you're on your medications. These are medications that you have to be on for life. So the question is what else can you do that will help sustain whatever outcome you were looking for? You're still going to need to know this stuff. And you don't have to do the other things. You can just do this, the things that we teach in this course, and not need that other stuff. I'm always telling people, this is really where we should start. It really shouldn't necessarily start with bariatric surgery, or it shouldn't start with, a ton of medications. It should start with lifestyle, figuring out how to live in a way that sustains health, and then add on to that if you need to. But either way, you're going to have to do this part if you want sustainable change. So if you're looking for quick fixes, and some people are, right? So I tell people, this isn't for everybody. If you are interested in just like losing 20 pounds for the wedding, but you want to gain those 20 pounds right back after the wedding, well, then fine. But if you're interested in losing 20 pounds for the wedding and you want to keep that off, if you're interested in getting pregnant and you want to be in the best health that you can be to have that pregnancy, if you have a family member who has Alzheimer's or memory issues, if you have an extensive family history of diabetes and high blood pressure, you're like, you know what, I don't want to go down that road. Well, those pills and shots aren't going to do that for you. Lifestyle will. So yeah, that got me excited. That
I know. See,
I get it. I can't help it.
Like waiting to go down a tangent, but that's really what it's about. It's that's why it's not just a weight loss program. It really is, okay, how can I live until I'm 70, 80, 90 and have good health? There's this misconception that you have to be sick as you get older, just because that's what we see. It's so rampant. But that's not actually the case. Like, you don't have to get sick as you age, and so that's what this is about, the longevity of your health, not just a quick fix in the moment. That's why even when people might maybe go back and forth on price, it's like, oh, I don't know. It's like, okay, when it comes to bad health, in the long run, all these issues start popping up and you have to have surgeries or the pills or that's pretty pricey, So in comparison, I think I would rather just go ahead and pay a little bit to have some preventative care in the, beginning stages, so that you don't have to get to that point where now you're forced to fork out all this money because now you're in scramble mode. Now you're in, okay, let's put out the fire mode.
And so that brings up another question, because it's an investment, right? It's not, the program is a lot less expensive than going to see a functional medicine doctor one-on-one for, you get through a couple of visits and you've exhausted what this program costs. But the program on its surface could for some people seem to be pricey. I think you really, sort of answered that question about like, is it worth it? Is it worth the cost of investment? And I think oftentimes people think, okay, yeah, that's if I get diabetes in 10 years that, maybe I'll get this return on this investment. But do you really feel like it's worth the investment now? Like, what to you in your mind do you see the immediate return on investment, if you see any at all?
How you're able to show up and live in the now. Now, I think about it when it comes in terms of me and my kids. So I cannot put in the effort. I can stay up all night scrolling on social media. I can, my eating habits can be real poor because I'm too busy to meal prep and I'm just kind of eating on the fly. But that starts to affect my mood. That starts to affect how I show up. That it starts to affect my patience, my capacity to deal with kids just being kids, and I don't want to be in this space where I'm so wound up, or I don't have the resiliency to deal with life because I haven't been taking care of my fundamental health needs. So this is kind of what I see this as. Take care of what you need to take care of now, fundamentally, get that all, in order so that you can show up better now. Like, don't wait and say, oh, well, if something were to happen down the line, because maybe you don't get that opportunity. Maybe something happens down the line, but it's too late at that point. So for me, it's more so, how am I able to best show up in this moment? And when it comes down to these things of like, how am I taking care of my body? I think that's, for me, that's the value, and
Yeah.
how I'm able to like show up for myself and for my children.
I love working with you, Chatila, because like I grow so much because you're such like you're so good with like your perspective. Like I think that's one of the things that makes a really great health coach is somebody who can like always see the sunshine part of things.
I do. I'm just like, love.
But it's great because it like it allows you to give like real like optimism and affirmation that's genuine. And we talk about that in the program. We talk about, the value of positive thinking, but one thing to talk about and it's another thing to see it in action. And so that's one of the great things like I love about working with you because sometimes I'll call you and I'll be like, oh, Jadila, the woe is me. And you're like, no, no, this is how you should be thinking about it. I'm like, you're right. Sorry. All right. All right. So anyway, any other questions that you can think of that people might have, or that you've heard from people that, would be helpful if we could answer them now?
Yeah. What about lab testing, like lab work? What does that come in to all of this?
Yeah. So, I have a very specific like theory on lab work. So I love labs. I do. I run them on myself. I run them on my patients. And knowing the right labs to order is also really important. But here's the thing, labs can be expensive, but they can also, when you want to run labs, the timing of labs, I think is where you get your biggest bang for the buck. So could I run labs? So just so it's clear, so I don't recommend labs during this program. I recommend labs if you're going to have them at the end of the program. And the reason is that if you're going to do the labs at the beginning of the program, that's only going to tell you where you are now. What we want to know is once you've reset your body, once you reset your metabolism, once you reset your hormones through lifestyle, then what's left over, right? Where am I then? And then that's the best, scenario to be in to be able to figure out what else do I need to do. Because one of the things I tell people all the time is that when you do the labs, I'm still going to tell you to do the things that are in the program. Like 99% of the things that I tell you in the program have to be done either way. I don't care what your labs are, right? Living healthy, getting good sleep, learning how to manage stress, understanding the value of connection, understanding the value and how to use fitness. All of these things have to be done regardless of what your labs are. So let's do that. And then let's do some labs at the end if that's something you still desire. So yeah, I think that they're super valuable, but I just don't think it changes the recommendation. So it's not going to change the recommendation. Why do it? Now, with that being said, let me just say this. I'm not saying that labs aren't valuable, particularly if you already know you have a chronic illness. And so there are scenarios where having labs at the forefront might be valuable. And then if that's the case, when we get on our discovery call, I let people know, hey, this is what I think we should do before you start, just so that we can track it appropriately. So, but that's actually very few things. I'm just even thinking in my mind, there are very few scenarios where I'm just like, oh no, we need to make sure X, Y, and Z is in place before you start. And the reason this is actually a really good point, is that there are no adverse side effects to living healthy, right? We're not going to make things worse by living healthy. And when we do things that are helpful and we have adverse symptoms, that is information. So just an example, if you are a diabetic and your blood sugar starts to improve and you need to come off of diabetic medications, well, your body is going to tell you that information. But it's not as if by eating differently, we're going to cause your blood sugar to, spike, and then you're going to end up with some complication. No, the only thing that could happen is that you'll need less medication, and your body is going to let you know that, not your labs. And of that, the other thing I'd say is that learning how to listen to your body is really valuable. And even though I think labs can be very motivating, what I really want people to focus on is what things they actually have control over, because they now know how to have that intuition about their body and realize that, listen, I have a lot of what I need without having to spend any extra money,
Yeah.
doing any extra lab tests, any extra anything, you know?
We say the same about supplements too. Like, let's just see what your body is like at baseline. And then
Yeah.
if it needs, whatever support later, then we'll address that at the end. So
Yeah, I think, and that, I think that just comes from sort of my scientific model. Like whenever you're testing something, to see if it's working, you really have to isolate all the other parameters. And so if you are taking, 10 supplements, most people, I'll just say from experience, most people don't even know what they're taking supplements for. There are scenarios where you might be on supplements and we'll let you know at the beginning of the program. You can stay on these, but everything else, let's hold off on those. Let's see if your energy improves without that, special, potion that you got off the internet. Let's see if your sleep improves without that thing. And then, you can add it back in sort of a scientific way so that you can figure out, oh no, okay, this is what it feels like without the supplement. This is what it feels like with the supplement. And you can make a decision whether or not that's something you need to spend your money on every month, right? Because some of that stuff you probably just don't need. Okay, I think we've exhausted a lot of the questions, but if anybody ever has questions, we're always open to answering those too. So
yeah.
thank you, Chatila, for doing
You're
this.
welcome.